As the T20 World Cup rages on, we struggle to understand the cultural significance of cricket. And I struggle too, which is why I'm not going to talk about the cultural significance of cricket. I just really need a good hook for this video. I don't really know how to make hooks for videos or articles, whatever. I'm just going to review these teams because that's all I'm good enough to do. Afghanistan, they genuinely have a good team. They're basically eliminated, which is pretty unfortunate. I do think that it's because they have two of the top 4 teams in the World Cup in their group, which is kind of rigged. New Zealand and South Africa and Afghanistan in the same group, that's just not fair, One weakness I said that they had even before was their middle order, and that's kind of why they couldn't score against both New Zealand and South Africa, because honestly, Gurbaz did more than what was required against South Africa. But if the middle order just 20 more runs, maybe even 5 more runs would have been useful. Actually, even a 1 more run would have been useful in reality. But really, it's just not that good. And against New Zealand, their pacers weren't able to contain Seifert, which is why they lost that match. Again, there's not really much to say about this team considering that they're basically eliminated, but they did amazingly against South Africa. Honestly, Rashid Arnabi should have bowled that super over. Omar Zai is just not experienced enough for this. As much as I love him, he's not a super over bowler. Obviously, kudos to Ramanullah Gurbaz for that great knock. I already talked about it, and that's gonna end it for them. Sri Lanka won 2 matches on the trot against Ireland and Oman. Ireland gave their top order a little scare by getting them to 86 for 4 in 14 overs, but they were able to seal a win by 20 runs thanks to Kamindu Mendes and their spin department. Surprisingly, the best part about this team has been their finishing, with Shanaka, Ratnakaye, Kamindu all being pretty good finishers. Kushal Mendes is also really good at the top, scoring 117 runs in 2 innings thus far. Their next match is definitely an uphill battle as they're up against Australia. However, this is actually a pretty weak Australian team, and weaker than I thought it would be, but more on that later. They definitely have a very good chance against them, especially with their extremely, extremely reliable spin attack, and Australia's lack of players who can play spin. The thing that needs work right now is their top order. They're just not in good form. Obviously, we've seen Mishara and Nisanka do great things, but this time they just haven't been able to find their rhythm. If they can get off to a good start against Australia and in the rest of the tournament, there's really nothing stopping them from reaching the semis, but I doubt it. Right now, I feel like the furthest they can get is the Super 8s. Oman is next, and they really haven't done anything that impressive this World Cup. They've been unimpressive in all their matches. Other associate nations have actually been creating good games, while Oman is just getting bashed. Their opening bowlers are pretty good, I guess, but that's it. Italy, please beat England. It would be so amazing. They have an actual really solid team. In my predictions video, I said that I doubted they were going to win any matches, but then they absolutely destroyed Nepal, won by 10 wickets. I feel like they do have a really good team, but not good enough to beat England. Obviously, the Mosca brothers had a great day out, and Krishal Kalugamage had a really good day out, along with Ben Menanti. They also have had a great World Cup win, but I doubt they're going to get into the Super 8s. They should go into the England match with a bit of confidence, though, and should be somewhat confident in their ability to make England struggle, or maybe even get a win, After all, England's weapon against spin is just throwing Tom Binton at them, so maybe Krishan can spin a web against them. Obviously, England's bowlers are better, but it can be a close match. Over to Australia, who actually has a fairly interesting team. They lost to Zimbabwe and won against Ireland. Their win against Ireland was actually quite an easy one. They won by 67 runs. Zampa and Ellis were absolutely amazing that game, and Inglis and Stoinis were actually solid with the bat. Their loss to Zimbabwe was actually pretty crazy. Their batters are just out of form at the wrong time. Inglis is usually one of the best T20 batters around. Head is almost always aggressive, and Marsh was injured. Renshaw was pretty good though, which was solid for them, and their bowlers were pretty good at keeping runs contained, which is what I said in my predictions video. They restricted Zimbabwe to 169, but only took 2 wickets. Again, 170 is a pretty good target on this pitch, but 169 for 2 is just a weird score. Their batting definitely needs work though, just because everyone is out of form. Steve Smith is coming in with red-hot form from the BBL though, so I do expect a change in their batting. Their next matches are against Sri Lanka and Oman. Sri Lanka definitely have the upper hand for now, so they are in danger of being eliminated in the group stage, and the qualification depends on Zimbabwe, which I'll get into right now. Zimbabwe won against Oman and Australia. The Oman match was absolutely a thrashing, with Muzarabadi, Dugrava, and Evans wreaking havoc. The pace trio did the same against Australia's top order. They also have a really good, solid top order, Zimbabwe does. It's full of anchors who were honestly completely out of form before the World Cup, but they did a great job because they just basically take it like a test cricket mentality. Tire the bowlers out and score quick later. Shikandar Raza is their number 5, or number 4 at times, and play some quick innings in the end so that they can get to a score above 150. And then their bowlers destroy the top order, and it's basically over for the opposing team. Personally, I think that this team is making it to the Super 8s over Australia. I just see more confidence in this side than I do in Australia's, and I think that's what's going to be the deciding factor in the final 3 matches. Canada, I'm obligated to talk about them, but don't really have much to say. Like, they have a good middle order. I don't really know. The UAE is honestly the exact same thing. They just won against Canada. Actually, you know what? They did put up 173 against New Zealand on a slower pitch, so their batting is honestly really good with Washim and Sharafu doing great there. They still lost by 10 wickets, but yeah, they're not making it to the Super 8s. It's clearly going to be New Zealand and South Africa from Group D. The Netherlands have been absolutely great. I really liked them against Pakistan, and that was probably one of my favorite T20s that I've seen in the last couple of years, but they lost badly against the USA. They did have a strong performance against Namibia, though. Their main problem is that most of their team just isn't feeling it right now. Their biggest hitters, Max O'Dowd, Colin Ackerman, Bas de Leede, and Scott Edwards, are just all out of form, and Kyle Klein nor Logan Van Beek are bowling well either. No chance for the Super 8s, they're basically eliminated. A really good performance against Pakistan, though. Ireland lost versus Australia and Sri Lanka and won against Oman. They did have a pretty good fight against Sri Lanka, but they mostly fell to the nasty spin attack. Not really much to say here. They can't really qualify for the Super 8, so I'm not really going to talk about them. Good knock by Lorcan Tucker versus Oman, though, and overall good bowling by Mark Adair. England have had a very, very, very shaky T20 World Cup so far. They were in huge trouble against Nepal, and only won thanks to some tricky bowling from Sam Curran. They also had some really good strong batting from the 2 youngsters, Brooke and Bethel. I don't really know if you could call Brooke a youngster anymore. They then got hammered by the West Indies because they can't play spin, and thanks to Rutherford's huge innings, the West Indies easily won that. Then they got into trouble with spin again against Scotland, but Benton was there to save the day. Overall, if they could somehow keep getting away with this, it shouldn't be too bad for them. They're usually bad in T20 World Cup group stages, so it makes sense, but I just don't really see any spark from their team. Butler and Salt aren't really taking advantage of the power play, Brooke can't bat sensibly, and their bowling leaks out too many runs. Leaking 180 against Nepal, who has one of the worst batting attacks in this World Cup, is pretty crazy. They don't really have a proper reliable spinner other than Atal Rashid, and he and Dawson keeps getting taken on by fearless batters. Against teams like India, or honestly even a team like Sri Lanka, this wouldn't really work. They're definitely making it to the Super 8s, but the past that is really what I doubt. I still think that they are a good enough side to make it into the semis, but the way it's looking right now, the West Indies is definitely a better candidate. Even Pakistan is a better candidate. And also, I was writing this while watching the West Indies versus Nepal game, which was... that was one game. Scotland is another victim of not being in the right form. They lost against the West Indies and England, but won against Italy. Again, I don't really have much hope for them. They could win against Nepal and qualify a net run rate, so they do have a chance if England loses to Italy. That probably isn't happening, though. Their batting honestly isn't that bad, with Barrington and McMullen doing good so far, and Mark Watt, Brendan McMullen, and Michael Leask, and Brad Curry doing well with the ball. Again, not past the group stage, but they do have a chance for the Super 8s if England loses to Italy, which not happening. I do want it to happen, but just not happening. New Zealand is honestly a great team. I guarantee that they would be in the top 4, and I really just like this team. They have a good top order with Seifert and Finn Allen, both of whom are able to build off each other really well and complement each other's weakness as well. Their middle order is definitely the most iffy part of the team. But Mark Chapman and James Neesham did okay against South Africa, and we all know how good Glenn Phillips can be. Their bowling is definitely a major problem, though. Leaking 170 against the UAE, 180 against Afghanistan, and letting South Africa chase 180 in less than 18 overs is not great. But somehow, in a weird way, they have some kind of balance. The spinners deal with the batters well in the middle, restricting them, and the Pacers still take wickets. In a perfect world, the Pacers would be leaking less runs, but there's only so much all-round work you can do. They're definitely making it through to the semis, especially with that top order. They do have a chance at the trophy, but they just have to bowl tighter lines to get there. I don't really have any specific changes that I would want, but personally I feel like Ish Sudhi is really underrated and he could be a good switch in for Rachin Ravindra. I don't see Rachin adding much, but Ish provides another spin angle, so definitely go with Ish over Rachin. South Africa is another one of the teams I predicted to be in the top 4, and they definitely do look like top 4 material. I'm willing to say that I didn't expect them to do this well, especially without Enric Norkia and any of the playing 11s, because Longi Diggity has done amazing. But they're probably the best team so far in this World Cup. Actually, you know what, after today, because I wrote this last night, but after today, I think India is definitely the best team because they beat Pakistan so easily, but Nigiri and Jansen have been excellent for them, but I mean their whole bowling lineup is just really good. I do see some concerns with their batting though. Rickleton and DeKalb are obviously amazing, really no comments about them, but the rest of them are just not up to the mark that I would think that a team of this caliber needs to be at. Obviously, Markram did amazing versus New Zealand the other day, but he's just not that consistent in T20 cricket, and especially in T20 tournaments like the T20 World Cup. They need a lot of consistency. Their middle order and finishing is also pretty concerning. Miller is pretty old now, so they can't keep using him and getting away with it, you know? Brevis and Stubbs have not had the best of times at the group stage, so clearly there's some kind of weakness against spin as well. We saw this as well with Rashid Khan battling their best batters and slower deliveries being key for the Afghanistan players. I really like the way the side operates though. They have some good blueprints, they just need to carry it on to the Super 8s and into the finals. When Stubbs and Brevis eventually find their rhythm, they'll be unstoppable. Like we saw in the SA20, they were unstoppable. They just need to focus more on the game. Their bowling also does have to leak less runs, but that's less of a problem than the entire middle order. So they still stay in my top 4. Nepal had a tough time this World Cup. They lost all 3 of their matches, and 2 of them were proper bashings. Again, they're eliminated. I don't really want to waste time talking about them, so maybe in a different video, you know? If you want that video, comment down and tell me. The West Indies is next. They honestly beat England to my top 4 teams in this World Cup after those 3 wins on the trot. All their wins have been pretty handy. 35 runs against Scotland, 30 runs against England, and 9 wickets against Nepal. The spinners are doing pretty great, and even the pacers like Matthew Ford and Shamar Joseph, who don't usually do well, are actually doing really well. I really like this team. It does seem to pack an unexpected punch. Their batting order is also doing pretty great, with Shea Hope and Brandon King being solid anchors at the top, and the middle is also really good. And Sherfane Rutherford is really good there in T20 World Cups. I still think that the batting order is not as good as it can be, though. There are just too many anchors who can be vulnerable to spin. They haven't really been tested against spin yet because they haven't played the more spin-heavy teams like Pakistan or India. Once they do play these teams, I doubt that they can show the same dominance that they have in these last matches. They're obviously not going to play against Pakistan, but they might play against Sri Lanka. And if that happens, I really do think that they can make it into the semis. The Indians have been really good. I really don't have to say much. They definitely seem vulnerable to spin, surprisingly. Out of all of the different things that they could be vulnerable to, it's spin. They don't really have many reliable players against spin, with only Dubé being the super reliable. Everyone else has the potential to be a liability. Again, they're not actually a liability, but they have the potential to be, like Tilak and Surya today against Pakistan. Surya was a bit better than Tilak, obviously. Their bowling is really good, no concerns there. Some concerns for me with Abhishek is at the top, 2 ducks in 2 matches, but Kishan has been good enough for me to neglect that fact. Surya can also be somewhat solid when required, and Dubé and Rinku were good enough finishers today and did really well to get India to 175 against Pakistan today. They're still favorites to win this tournament. Namibia is eliminated, not really much to say. Rasmus did well against India, I guess. They didn't really have that many dominating matches, but if they beat Pakistan, the United States qualifies. So, rooting for Namibia. The United States and Pakistan are, as I said, both in contention to qualify for the Super 8s. The USA has played all of their matches and have actually done pretty well, even against the big teams. Shadley Van Schalkwyk has done really, really well, being the leading wicket taker in the tournament with 13 wickets, averaging 7.8 and an economy of just 6.8. Harmeet Singh has also been really good at the spin department. Their batting isn't great, but Shubham Ranjane has scored a good chunk of runs while batting at 5 or 6 and striking at over 180 and averaging 70. 141 runs at that position is actually pretty hard, so he's been great. Other than that, Krishnamurthy has been solid as well. They did really well against India, reducing them to 77 for 6 at one point, and against Pakistan, their batting put up 160 on a tougher pitch. Obviously, it was a chase, so, 160 not that great against 190, but 160 isn't, like, honestly, I thought they would do way worse because Pakistan's spin is just, like, so good, but 160 is actually, like, really, really good. They're actually a really good team, but I don't think they're better than Pakistan for the Super 8s. Pakistan are up against Namibia in their final match, so obviously they're going to win it. I mean, there is a chance. There's always a chance, but Pakistan is going to win that match, if I'm being realistic. Their spin attack is really good, and this is what I was kind of... I should talk about Pakistan. I should clarify. I'm talking about Pakistan. I wrote them in the same paragraph because they're, like, really, really similar teams somehow. They're really similar teams in the sense that they both have a chance to qualify. Pakistan are up against Namibia in their final match, so obviously they're going to win it. So their spin attack is really good, and this is kind of what I was recommending them to do 2 years ago, or not even 2 years ago. It was more like a year and a half ago. After they lost to England in that Test match series at home, I think it was the time Harry Brooks scored a 300. Yeah, it was that one. So once they lost that match, I was like, they gotta go spin heavy. In all formats, not just Test cricket. And I'll put that video up somewhere. It was a really bad video, but I think I had some good points there. I hope. I haven't watched it in a while, but yeah, that's kind of what I've been recommending them to do. However, their middle order and pace attack is just bad. The pace attack leaks way too many runs, and the spin attack somewhat makes up for it, but, like, barely. Like, India still put up 175 against them today. Obviously, Ishan Kishan had a huge part in that, taking down all the spinners, but I feel like Surya and Tilak were genuinely bringing India down to a score of less than 160. They could have easily got them out for less than 150, but it's crazy how they just let them get to 175. Considering their spin bowling, 150 would have been par score for them. Plus, the middle order clearly cannot deliver without any top order help. Obviously, Usman Khan was good today, but he really got stuck at times, which just isn't good for them. I really do think that Pakistan can make it to the semis, but for now, they just look bad against the biggest teams. And yeah, that's it. So a recap done for all of the teams. Now to my final predictions after week 1. I think it's going to be India, South Africa, Pakistan, and New Zealand for the semis. I just don't think the West Indies has the capacity to win the Super 8s. Especially they're up against Pakistan, India, two very Sri Lanka, India, two very spin-heavy teams. So I just don't think that they have the capacity to get there. The batting just isn't good enough, whereas New Zealand, Pakistan, and South Africa, even Salman Aliaga is a very capable batter. And most of Pakistan's top order is very capable. It's just their middle order that's really bringing them down. And obviously New Zealand and South Africa have some of the best batters in the tournament. So yeah, I just don't think that the West Indies batting is good enough in order to get them to the semis. And also Pakistan's batters are very capable against spin, especially Salman Aliaga. He's very capable against spin. Not today, obviously, but I think he's still a capable batter. So yeah, that's it for this one. Obviously, India's gonna win, but that's it for this one. See you guys next week. Bye.